It's a great time to buy a smartphone right now. Yes, flagships have never been more expensive, but budget phones have never been better than they are right now. Samsung, Google, and Apple are still making their overpriced, really expensive flagship phones, but now they're competing in the lower end as well. The iPhone SE, the Pixel 4a, those are budget phones that pack a lot in for a relatively low price. But the question I have, if you're looking for a budget phone right now, why not look at one of the flagships from years past? Well, that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to take a look at the iPhone 8 Plus. It is going to be 3 years old next month. It came out September 2017. But does it still hold up? And is it worth it? Hey guys, welcome to Retethered. My name is Jonathan, and let's start talking about the iPhone 8 Plus. I've been using it for the last couple of days, and it's been interesting. So let's get right into it. Let's start talking about the design, because the design is showing its age. It looks 2017, if not older. There are bezels on this phone, to say the least. There are large upper and lower bezels, and it just looks really dated. It's not like the phones that we have today that have really slim bezels. In fact, this phone is big. It's about the size of a flagship smartphone that you would buy today. The difference is this display is only 5.5 inches. We're all used to having larger phones now, but we're also used to having large displays that come with those larger phones, and you don't really get that with the iPhone 8 Plus. The one good thing about having those larger bezels, at least you have Touch ID at the bottom. There's no Face ID. You don't have Face Unlock with this iPhone 8 Plus. Instead, you have Touch ID once again, and that could be good or bad depending on your preference. And the rest of the phone is what you would expect from an iPhone. It's made of metal and glass. The back has glass, it has a metal frame. It feels nice in the hands. It's a typical iPhone design. What I do like about this phone, if you look out back, the camera hump. Yes, in today's flagship phones, for some reason, they are putting these ginormous, humongous camera bumps. On this phone, it's a smaller camera bump. So in my opinion, it just looks nicer, it looks cleaner, but I guess the reason flagship phones are putting these larger camera sensors into these smartphones is to get better pictures. And that's something that this phone is kind of lacking, but we'll get into that a little bit more later in the video. The display, like I mentioned, is a 5.5 inch 1920 by 1080 LCD display. And it's actually not too bad. It's not Samsung Galaxy display level where the colors are vibrant and it's just an amazing, beautiful looking display. But for an LCD display, it's pretty good. Of course, because it is LCD, you're not going to get those deep level blacks like you would with an OLED screen. But Apple does a pretty good job with their LCDs, and this phone is no different when it comes to that. You also have dual speakers, so viewing or watching movies or videos, it's actually pretty nice. Performance. Well, this phone actually performs really well. I was actually pleasantly surprised. It has an A11 Bionic inside, and it still runs pretty quick. Really no issues with the A11 Bionic. And this really just shows you how well Apple's chipsets are. This is a 3-year-old phone, and it's still, in my opinion, running really good. I rarely experienced any lag with this phone. I even was able to install iOS 14, the beta version, onto this phone, and it runs really well. I have no issues at all. Now, when it comes to battery, that's where this phone is also starting to fall behind in. Because this phone is almost 3 years old, that means the battery inside is almost 3 years old as well. And as we all know, batteries, as time goes on, they start to lose their efficiency, their capacity, and battery life is affected. When I went to battery health in the settings, you can see that the maximum capacity of the battery is now 84%. So this phone came with a 2675 milliamp hour battery. So if we do some simple mathematics, that would give us 2247 milliamp hour batteries based on that 84% capacity. Now, that's kind of a rough estimate of the battery capacity, and that might seem really small when you compare it to other smartphones today, but I was still able to get about 4 to 5 hours of screen on time. So it isn't too bad, but the problem is the battery capacity is only going to get worse. This phone is only going to get older and battery life is only going to get worse. So keep that in mind. It's already on year 3. Now let's get into the cameras. And this is an area where this phone is also starting to show its age. The iPhone 8 Plus has a dual camera setup, a 12 megapixel wide and telephoto lens. It's not a horrible camera, but it's starting to fall behind. I put it head to head with my favorite camera on a smartphone, the Pixel 4. This is the Pixel 4 XL. This is my favorite camera on any smartphone. And let's just say it wasn't fair. It was like a professional playing against an amateur. If a professional basketball player went one-on-one with an amateur, you would watch that and you would start to feel bad for that amateur player. Well, that's kind of like the iPhone 8 Plus and the Pixel 4. Just look at these two pictures using the portrait mode on both phones. Which one do you prefer? The one on the right looks way better. That's the Pixel 4 XL. You can see how the photo from the Pixel phone has way more vibrancy. The colors are way more accurate and it has way more detail. The photo from the iPhone 8 Plus, it looks washed out and the colors just look dull. I mean, look at the lettering on the bottle. You can see all the details on the Pixel's picture, but not so much on the iPhone 8 Plus. Here's another. Once again, you can see the Pixel is way more vibrant and it even knows how to handle light better. On the iPhone 8 Plus, the areas where the light hits the leaves, they're just blown out. You can't even see anything. Meanwhile, the Pixel 4, you can still see detail. And just to be fair, here's a side-by-side with the iPhone SE. And it's also not even close. The colors on the iPhone SE are way more accurate, way more vibrant, and the iPhone 8 Plus just doesn't know how to handle light very well. Photos either come out overexposed or underexposed. It's just going to take way more time and effort to get a photo that you actually like with the iPhone 8 Plus. Really, what this is showing us is that smartphone cameras are continuing to get better and better. And 3 years is kind of a long time when it comes to tech, especially when you're comparing smartphone camera technology. And this phone just kind of lacks. It falls behind flagships today. Even budget phones are much better than this camera, in my opinion. So the question is this smartphone worth it? You can go online right now and buy this phone for about $300 to $350 depending on the storage capacity and the condition. Is it worth it for that price? Well, if it was 6 months ago, I would say yes, it's worth it. But now we have the iPhone SE, we have the Pixel 4a, and honestly, those phones are a way better value. If you pay just a little bit more and get those phones, you're going to be much more happier. They have better performance. For example, the iPhone SE has Apple's A13 Bionic, and even though this phone performs pretty well, you're going to be much happier with the iPhone SE when it comes to performance. When it comes to camera, the Pixel 4a takes amazing photos. It's comparable to that Pixel 4. So if you're looking for a budget phone that's also going to take the best pictures possible, you have to look to something like that as well. And really, that's why it's such a good time to buy a smartphone. Budget phones have never been better. They are packing in flagship features for a really low price. And instead of going to something like this, which is starting to show its age, maybe check out one of those pretty good budget phones. And if you're wondering which of those two budget phones to choose from, the iPhone SE or the Pixel 4a, I actually did a video where I compare those two phones as well. So I'll go ahead and link that here in the description as well. So check it out if you want a better understanding of what those two budget phones have to offer. But what do you think of the iPhone 8 Plus? Let me know with a comment down below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos just like this one on tech news, reviews, and much more, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell icon so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.